Afadane, good morning. Welcome, everyone, especially veterans, all the veterans here and the associates. Welcome to the Guam Congress building. The Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture is called to order. Today's Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. The time is 10:30 a.m. In compliance with the Open Government Law, notice for this public hearing was published in the Guam Daily Post and posted to the Government of Guam Public Notice portal on Tuesday, September 24 and Sunday, September 29, 2024. Notice was also sent by email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets, and this hearing is being live streamed on the Guam Legislature's YouTube channel. I ask that everyone who's going to testify, before you testify, just please state your name very clearly for the record. We'll be transcribing all the testimony here, and we want to be sure to attribute it to the correct person. After the testimony, we will, if you're able to stay, we would allow questions from the panel of senators who are present with us today. And we have with us the vice chair of my committee, Senator Joanne Brown, Senator Telo Taitague, who is the sponsor of the resolution that we are going to be hearing today. We have Senator Chris Barnett and Senator Sabina Perez. Thank you, senators, for being here. So we have one agenda item, that is Resolution 472-37LS. It's sponsored by Senator Telo Taitague, Senator Joanne Brown, Frank Blas Jr., Chris Barnett, Therese M. Terlaje, Jesse A. Lujan, Sabina Flores Perez, Joe S. San Agustin, William A. Parkinson, Tina Rose Muña Barnes, Christopher M. Dueñas, Dwayne T.D. Nicolas, Roy A.B. Quinata, relative to requesting the United States Department of Veterans Affairs to establish a regional office on Guam to service the needs of veterans on Guam, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and the freely associated states. All right, I'm going to now ask the primary sponsor of this resolution, who is Senator Telo Taitague, to introduce the resolution.
Sujus Masi, Madam Speaker, and good morning to my colleagues. We're known as the Fab Five here, so if you want to take note of that. Anyways, I want to thank Madam Speaker, especially for including Resolution 472 in today's hearing. Ordinarily, I would hold the public hearing, but what happened is that the schedule is so full, so the good speaker, knowing this is helpful to the veterans, said she will take it under her scheduled time and provide her, give her time to this resolution. So I greatly appreciate the speaker doing. Our veterans should know that our speaker not only agreed to this, but also believed that the veterans are important to her as well as my colleagues that are here today. My thanks as well to whoever has submitted testimony. We see quite a bit of testimony coming in, or who are here, especially those who are here to testify on what I consider an important matter to the military veterans throughout Micronesia. Your testimony may provide information that we may incorporate into the resolution to further strengthen this resolution. What the resolution does is petition the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs to establish a regional office on Guam to better serve the needs of Guam, CNMI, FSM veterans. Getting adequate services through the Hawaii VA has been difficult and very frustrating for our veterans. Our veterans deserve better. For many years, our veterans have had to endure the struggles of receiving well-deserved benefits such as health care, most especially. And you know that I've pushed hard for the health care needs of our veterans. At the last General Assembly of the Association of Pacific Island Legislature, and this is all of Micronesia islands who came together to discuss resolutions that we can give as a whole. I introduced this particular resolution and was able to get it adopted that was very similar to this resolution, and everyone unanimously from all the islands supported the resolution and voted in favor of it. And that resolution is on its way to Congress. So today, speaking with one voice is our desire to help our veterans, and this resolution does that. I know that the resolution is not perfect. We will try and do our best to incorporate some of the recommendations that you have, but one thing is for sure, I'm not going to delay this resolution going to Congress. Whether or not, some agree or disagree, I think it's time that we continue to advocate for our veterans every single month if we can. If I could put a resolution out every single month and hound the United States Congress, I'll do that. Everybody knows me. I'm a follow-up kind of person. I keep following up to the point where they get so frustrated, they'll give it to us just to shut us up. And I'll go that route if I need to. It's about fighting for our veterans. My father was a veteran. My brother-in-law is a veteran. My children's father is a veteran. And that's why I'm putting this through. So I thank you, everyone, for your testimonies today. Thank you.
Masi, Senator. We're not going to hear testimony. So we will begin, and if I call your name, please have a seat at the panel. We'll just take several panels. So we'll begin with Congressman Jim Moylan, former senator as well, Guam senator. Mr. Eddie Regis. We have the Director of the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, Mr. San Agustin. Ralph Terlaje. Stephen Emagwin. Ginger Cruz. If anyone needs a copy of the resolution, you can get one from my staff over there in the corner. All right, so we begin. Congressman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the Guam Legislature, my name is James Moylan. I'm your congressman from Guam, representing you in the 118th Congress. It's good to be back home. It's good to be in the same room that I'm very familiar with, and it's good to see familiar faces. And I thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on Resolution 47237. I commend the measure's authors for providing a position to supplement various efforts to improve the services for veterans residing in Guam and the region. I want to start by expressing my support for Resolution 47237. The measure requests that the Department of Veterans Affairs establish a regional office in Guam to serve the needs of veterans residing in Guam, as well as the CNMI and FSM. I don't think anyone disagrees with the need for a facility to adjudicate claims locally and address many other pressing priorities. The process to get there will take a collective effort, including a unanimous agreement by this legislative body, the Governor of Guam, and various veterans organizations, the community, and my office. Since the start of last year, our office has been involved in numerous discussions with not only the Department of Veterans Affairs, but also the Veterans Health Administration, the Veterans Benefits Association, the Veterans Affairs Pacific Islands Healthcare Service, and the 21st Region of the Veterans Integrated System Network, all of which have some direct impact on the Veterans Services activity here in Guam. Guam having a regional VA office has been among our top discussions and priorities, but the reality is that there is a process that involves many moving parts and entities, a challenge we are certainly up for. We have expressed the deficiencies in the adjudication of claims, the timelines for veterans to secure a compensation and pension exam, and their disability ratings, the inability of veterans to pay their VHA bills locally, and so many other issues. While we have seen some headway on the timelines and improved services, the reality is that having a regional office would certainly help centralize these issues. Note that we are seeing an improvement in the timeline for C&P exams and the results of disability ratings, but we are not yet where we need to be. Last year, the average timeline for Phase 1 to issue a disability rating was an average of 7 months, and that has reduced to about 30 days on average. This is because our office is constantly engaged in finding solutions within the process and will continue to do so. This includes enhancing the number of vendors involved both locally and some of their VBA adjudication offices. Yes, having a regional office may undoubtedly help alleviate this issue. We are working with various entities on creating a process for veterans to pay their bills locally. Currently, they have to wait for weeks to get their invoices, and then, unfortunately, the only means to make their payment will be to mail it out. For some, this is challenging. We are engaged in finding a solution to allow the CBOC to have the infrastructure and manpower to allow the payments to be made there. So yes, having a regional office may certainly alleviate this use. We are also pursuing a memorandum of understanding between DVA and the Naval Hospital Guam to provide expanded services for veterans, including radiology, auxiliary, and pharmaceutical services. Unfortunately, there are some hiccups in the process, and we are navigating them with the VAPEX. If this materializes, it would not only be a major step for veterans in terms of services, but also open the door for other types of specialized care. A couple of weeks ago, our office joined an effort to extend a program that establishes a joint venture between the Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans Affairs regarding utilizing shared facilities to enhance medical care for veterans. I'm happy to report that the language made in the recent continuing resolution, which the House passed last week, extends the program authorization until September 30, 2025. I'm even more excited to share that we are working with both entities to seek a feasibility study to explore how these arrangements can apply in Guam. Part of our discussions include extending this program beyond 2025 and increasing the authorized funding. This is another avenue to increase services for our veterans and possibly construct a medical facility near the Naval Hospital. I would like to note that this is the VAPEX long-term vision, and we would prefer to speed up that timeline. There are also so many aspects of veterans' issues to elaborate on, but the one low-hanging fruit our office has repeatedly reiterated is increasing our VHA enrollment numbers. This number directly correlates with the level of medical service available on the island. The VHA does not look at our office numbers, which exceed 20,000 veterans in Guam. Instead, they look at 6,000 plus who have availed themselves to medical insurance plan. It's simple actuarial science utilized by the healthcare industry throughout the industry to include in Guam. If we can collectively increase enrollment, Guam would be in a better position to avail itself to more services from the VHA. This would include a more significant argument for having a regional office in Guam. I understand that Guam's representatives on the VA Advisory Commission for Territories, Vice Speaker Tina Muña Barnes and Mr. Vince Borja, are also strongly advocating, and they are also making some headway in the discussions on the commission level. as the DVA Secretary leads this commission. Increasing VHA enrollment numbers would also aid their efforts. In closing, I want to thank the Guam Legislature for their supportive efforts with Resolution 47237, which also helps supplement our efforts in Congress. I also like to add, our bill, H.R. 522, just passed the House of Representatives last week, and the legislation would assist Guam veterans with disabilities in obtaining an adaptive vehicle. I want to thank also Senator Dwayne and Nicolas for taking the lead in passing a resolution earlier in the year to help support those efforts. I also want to thank this legislative body for supporting the measure. This is an example of being unified in one message on actions that benefit the community. I thank you very much for this opportunity to speak, and I'm always open to extending discussions on this and other matters. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Congressman, would you be able to stay for questions from the panel? Are there any questions for the Congressman by Senator Taitague, Senator Brown?
Much, Madam Speaker. Just one question. I understand, Congressman Moylan, the efforts that your office is making, but what do you think can help facilitate? I'm sure there's other state jurisdictions that are probably challenged. I mean, even though you have a wider opportunity in the U.S. mainland to receive these services because it's all contiguous. We're all the way out here in the Pacific, and I myself, my dad was a veteran. He was a combat veteran, and it took through the Hawaii office three rounds of documentation that got lost and had to be re-put together, and it took quite a while. I'm glad we were finally able to do it, but through much frustration. And my experience, and having raised in a household of, with someone who's very orientated in getting the mission done, it was frustrating being a veteran after you're retired and then having to hassle through the process. Having to follow up, having to do continuous writing and phone calls, which he found immensely frustrating, almost to the point of being discouraged, of not wanting to continue. And I thought, well, Dad, you've worked for it, you've earned it, let's do what we got to do to make this happen. It's very change of roles because I was always the child, he was always the parent, and now I had to step up and assist him. Fortunately, finally, and certainly before his passing, he was able to get his 100% disability. And unfortunately, his passing was also related to service-related issues that ultimately led to him passing away. But I'm sure if we went through this experience, I'm sure many others, other families in Guam have had to do this. So how do you think we can facilitate for Guam to help our veterans out here? Because I'm sure we know our men and women are just as good as anywhere else in the United States, if not better, in stepping up when the time comes. So how can we facilitate that for our veterans that we've not had over the years, so they don't have to encounter these type of challenges when they need the help and support the most?
Thank you, Senator Brown. I'm a veteran myself, and we are fortunate to have a district office where many of the veterans have come before us for assistance too. We dealt with many of the organizations that are here represented as well. We've also had the opportunity to have the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee of the House of Representatives, House of Congress, come here too, who saw firsthand the situation at the CBOC, who saw firsthand the situation for our veterans, who made a very strong letter within Congress to make a difference. We're seeing improvements, and it's long overdue, and for this attempt, it comes a step at a time. But what I've majorly expressed here is the numbers had to be accurate. It's actuarial figures on how they figured it out. Though our local Veterans Affairs Office may see 20,000, those that are registered with the CBOC are less than 7,000. This effort from Senate to gubernatorial, administration, to the House and Congress, that's one voice, and it will continue to be that voice. Your efforts are very helpful, and across the nation, they're all looking for the same answers. But Guam is in a strategic location. We support the free associated states, the Northern Marianas, and of course our veterans on Guam. We're going to have an increase in military buildup, and we have to show that we have the capability to provide for our veterans that may be retiring from this group. The only way we can do that is increase, and this is one solution to do so. But we must have the numbers to reflect that. So we can argue even stronger that though we're small in land mass, we are big in the veterans, the highest capital in our nation, and more to come from our experience in over 80 years of liberation of Guam, and now for our defense of the Indo-PACOM area. This is the right thing to do, and I really appreciate what the Guam legislature has done and support, and I totally 100% support this resolution. So thank you, Senator Brown.
Well, thank you very much also, Congressman Moylan, for your efforts, and I certainly hope that a bigger initiative is put out there. I know it's been a number of concern for years in trying to track down and get those numbers of our veterans. I hope a bigger outreach program can be facilitated because there's many other opportunities and support services that we'd like to see our veterans have. It's just a question of them being aware and ensuring that they're on the list. And I hope our local veterans, I'm sure our director here will elaborate on that. But there's definitely a need, and I think we just got to break through that issue so that we can help those that need the help the most. But thank you so much for responding to my question. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Barnett, any questions for Congressman before he has it?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Maybe not a question, just more of a comment. And I agree that has been the issue. I met with some veterans over at the First Hawaiian Bank office, and it was the same thing. You know, we have per capita one of the highest enlistment rates, but, you know, unfortunately the federal government's falling short on the promises that should be fulfilled for our veterans. And so when I was with the veterans, they kind of echoed your sentiments there, is that we need to do more to sign up to show the federal government that we have the numbers. But I also feel you talked a lot about a military buildup, which is ongoing, and you talked about Guam's strategic location in the region. And I'm just of the opinion that because of those things, we should go, you know, straight to the top and align the governor, the congressional offices' efforts, and really hammering down this issue and telling the feds that, hey, we might not have the numbers on your paper, but our state office says that, you know, we're talking about 20,000 veterans, and I feel for our veterans because you don't have to meet with them to understand that they, in many cases, feel invisible to the federal government. And they know that part of the issue is that we're not able to register enough veterans, but they don't care about that. They just want to see the results. So, you know, it's very similar. I mean, it is a little apples and oranges, but, you know, with the schools, what do we have to do? We just had to get it done. And I know there was an effort with Dr. McDermott and the VA. They came out, I believe it was last year at the mall to do the registration drives. And, you know, when I talk to the veterans, it's a little bit of, oh, some people that just turned off by the process and, you know, it takes so long, or they don't have access, or they already have their own healthcare, you know, solutions in place. So, you know, I understand where you're coming from, Congressman Moylan, but, you know, I also feel for the veterans who have, you know, been hearing this for years. They've been hearing that, you know, we've got, we know how many veterans we got, and I think there's got to be creative avenues to really get us a seat at the table and to say, hey, you know, if we're strategic and if we're trying to do all these things, you know, let's negotiate. Hey, if you're going to put all these missiles over here and you're going to do this, then please take care of our veterans. And for me, I think it's, you know, high time that we got to get creative and quit expecting the problem to solve itself. So that's all. And I thank you again for your efforts, Congressman. And I'm hoping that we do a lot of these resolutions where we talk to the federal government. And, you know, I want to commend the author because she's not just doing this here on island, she's also doing it regionally, which I think is something that, again, we struggle with when we look at the region. It's almost as if a lot of things are happening all over except for Guam. And so those are my comments. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you again to the author for the introduction, and I commend veterans for their service, and thank you for showing up to testify.
Thank you, Senator Barnett. Senator Perez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, I'm in full support of this amendment, and I do want to see its unanimous passage by this body. You know, I know in your testimony you highlight the administrative challenges, which a lot of our veterans know too well. And you know, it's high time that we establish the office here. The other thing I want to ask you is, you know, with the passage of the PACT Act, it increased the number of, I guess, the requirements of the Veterans Affairs. And so I remember a decade ago, there was a scandal, right, with the Veterans Office in regards to the wait time. So we're not only seeing it here in Guam, but also nationally. And can you explain what are the political opportunities at the congressional level to address this? Because it's not just Guam that's experiencing the difficulties, but also other jurisdictions. The veterans are unable to access care even though it's mandated by law. And so what are they doing to change these or remove these administrative barriers to care? Because we know when we experience barriers to care, then often care does not, you know, they're unable to have health care. And so what do you think are the opportunities to join these efforts? So we've seen it with the Exposure Compensation Act, right? So, I'm sorry, the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act under, under the efforts here, which has occurred for over 10 years. And so we want to, how can we join those efforts, the national efforts?
Thank you, Senator Perez, and we have joined those efforts. The national situation is just as long, a little shorter, but just as long. It's unacceptable for the 118th Congress, and it has been addressed, and it has shortened, but still not at the level that's required. In the testimony I mentioned, there's so much bureaucracy. We're just not dealing with the Department of Veterans Affairs, but we're also dealing with the Veterans Health Administration, the Veterans Benefits Association, the Veterans Affairs Pacific Islands Healthcare Services, and the 21st Regional and Veterans Integrated System Network. All have some impact in what's going on. Sometimes they listen to one another, and sometimes they prefer to say, I'm in charge versus the other. The politics is even stronger at that level. But we are involved, to answer your question. The committee chairman on Veterans Affairs has put his feet on Guam, has visited Guam, and has addressed the issue with the correct parties, and has the backing of the 118th Congress as well. Territory of Guam is included as part of that message all the way up to the President of the United States.
Okay, thank you for that response.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Speaker.
I just want to see Senator Perez, and I know you have to go, Congressman, but I just have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind. First of all, so this resolution is going to be sent to a couple people. You, the delegate, the governor of Northern Mariana Islands, delegate from the CNMI, president of the FSM, president of Republic of Palau, president of the Republic of Marshall Islands, and the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and of course our governor. So yeah, my question to you is, who do you think will make this decision? Is it the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs, or the President of the United States, or Congress, or who, in your opinion, is going to make this decision?
It will be through the Secretary.
Secretary of Veterans Affairs. And then you outlined, you know, the need for us to prove the numbers. You also talked about the services that you're trying in other ways to expand. For example, at the Naval Hospital, you're trying to expand services to include radiology, ancillary and pharmaceutical services, which are currently not being provided to veterans. And then you're asking about, well, you're talking about this joint venture. This joint venture between DOD and the Department of Veterans Affairs is not applicable on Guam yet, is that correct?
It's ending, we're extending it. So the possibility is there for us to have. So we're part of this to extend it, and it was included in the CR, the continuing resolution that kept the government going.
But prior to being extended, was it applicable on Guam? Did it?
It was never used.
All right. And that would, you're saying, allow shared facilities between Department of Veterans Affairs and DOD?
Absolutely, to save, of course, the federal government money, and to come together for that purpose. It can be done. It was just has not been done.
Okay. And then the other one is this possibly construct a medical facility near the Naval Hospital. Is this anywhere near, like, reality? This part, this construct a hospital near the Naval, facility near the Naval Hospital.
The discussion has started, so at this point, that's the best we can provide. We just have to ensure that we can get this passed first.
All right, so it would be a veterans medical facility near the Naval Hospital. All right. Are you aware of any plans by the Department of Defense to help to pay the government of Guam or to help fund the government of Guam's new hospital?
I'm not aware of that. Of course, it will be very helpful. I'm sure if there is discussions, we need, we're one island. That's the whole object, right? Water supply, power supply, and medical especially, right? So previously of what we experienced with the governor's situation with one of the sites that was selected, there was discussion. So I wouldn't put it past that discussion continue on at another level.
All right. What about a VA facility in Guam's new hospital? Are you aware of any discussions on that level? Because one of the senators testified that that was a no. She was told by the VA no. But
again, it would be based on the numbers of enrollment that we can prove that. The bigger the numbers we can have, would give us more authority. It's the same calculations used throughout the nation. That's their system. And this would help to gain anything with what Guam wants to do in cooperation with our military here.
all right. Thank you again for your time and for testifying in person today and for your written testimony as well. We very much appreciate your presence here, Congressman.
Nice to see everybody again.
I'd too like to thank you for showing up and testifying too as well, Congressman Whalen. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
We'll proceed with those others who are signed up to testify. I have asked the Director of the Government of Office of Veterans Affairs for the Government of Guam to testify now, if you're able. So, Mr. San Agustin.
Afade, Madam Speaker, honorable senators of the 37th Guam Legislature, Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture. My name is Joe San Agustin, Director for the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. Today I appear before you in support of Resolution number 472-37, relative to requesting the United States Department of Veterans Affairs to establish a regional office in Guam to service the needs of veterans of Guam, the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Island, and the freely associated states. This resolution comes at a time where the federal VA is doing its very best to make good on services that has long been overdue for our veterans, such as Agent Orange, the PAC Act promised to address comprehensive toxics, burn pits, and water contamination. Many of our veterans that have since passed have suffered from illness likely caused from their military service, and were never medically taken care of in a timely manner or justifiably compensated for. As an island community, we understand what is best for our veterans and their family. Establishing a regional office will efficiently increase enrollment of services for our veterans. Guam will become a hub to provide services to our neighboring islands, which is so desperately needed. Currently, our Guam Office of Veterans Affairs has 24,000 DD-214 on record. I am also very aware that Guam has an undetermined number of veterans that have not registered with our VA office. The number of veterans will continue to increase due to the instability in our regions. Expansion of military bases on Guam and military activities within our neighboring islands are proof to an anticipated increase of veterans. A regional office will afford a smooth transition for our military members transitioning from military to civilian life. Services that is and should be rendered by a regional office are benefits, medical liaison, or a full-fledged medical service, and to include the National Cemetery Administration for burials. I could tell you that 2 pieces is under the state office, which is benefits and the burial services. What is not under my control are the medical services, which is all the reason why I said medical liaison. As I attend many of our directors' conferences in the States, I could tell you, and I could testify in front of you, that all those elements, 3 elements, benefits, medical, and the National Cemetery Administration are working hand in hand to better serve our veterans throughout the nation, which includes Guam. With that said, I thank you, the author, for this resolution. It is much needed. I could tell you that one way to make things happen is that we have to do things on our own. Some of the questions that was addressed to the good old delegate here, I could tell you also that we are in a very unique position. This is nothing out of the unusual, because the way it works is the folks up in DC, the folks that has the power, have to agree to make this happen. If one of them are from the states next door, the state next door, which does not have a facility, they will argue that I want a facility, but if the majority says no, you don't, because you could drive next door to the other state where there's a regional office and do business there, by all means, it's justifiable. But for us here, senators, 8 hours of flight, there is no boat that can make it to Guam within 45 minutes for any type of emergency needs. So those are many of the things that a small piece of it that I could share with y'all. As cloudy as this resolution is, I want to put this out there too, that we do care for our veterans and their families in the outer islands, but I would like for us to kind of focus on our folks here in Guam. Right now, I cannot share with you all what the federal government has in agreement with the outer islands, because I do not know. I could only guess that services are being rendered because there's some agreements as to, let me use your water, let me use your air, and let me use your land in exchange of this. I could say this also, that my service rep had approached me last week asking me if there's a way that I could talk to the governor and try to send them off to Saipan or Palau, because they do have clients that they serve there, and sometimes telephone calls don't do the job. So thank you for this effort, and let's continue to fight forward. I'm all in support of this. I'm sure our veterans are looking forward to it. Let's continue to fight the fight, and thank you very much for your time. Mrs. Masi.
Mrs. Masi, Director. Mr. Eddie Regis.
Happy day, Madam Speaker, Senators, and fellow veterans. I'm Eddie Regis. I'm an Air Force veteran. I'm also a son of, my father was in the U.S. Air Force. My brother was in the Army, his son is in the Army. All of us have service-connected disabilities. And I know that this issue is a very emotional issue for a lot of the veterans and their families. And a lot of it is anecdotal. I think that what we need to do is support whatever resolution that is submitted is supported with factual information that will be helpful for the support of the resolution in Congress and by the U.S. administration. Although the spirit and intent of the proposed resolution aims to improve services for veterans in Guam, CNMI, and FAS of the Pacific, the whereas provisions require more substantial and concrete information, as well as clarification as to what is being asked for. When I look at this, I look at it from a very technical point of view, because based on my experience, I believe that if you don't support the request with factual and comprehensive and substantive information, it will fall short. And I'm not going to read my entire statement, but I will just highlight some points. For instance, the resolution points to, in the whereas provisions, the VA hub. But the resolved paragraph on line 26 talks about a regional office. I think that requires clarification, because when we submit any kind of resolution to the VA, we have to be sure what we're asking for. And a case in point is that the regional office, as described in the VA website, talks about specific issues, focusing on disability claims, veterans benefits information, appeals management, and so on, whereas hubs are referred to as differently. There's clinical resource hubs, there's community care hubs, there's regional processing hubs, telehealth hubs, and so forth. So I just think we need to be clear on that. I just recently got involved in some veterans volunteer organizations and trying to help the cause of our fellow veterans. And I attended my first Guam Veterans Commission meeting, and it made me realize whether or not this actual resolution went before the Veterans Commission, so they could review it as a body. I understand that it went out on public notice, but I think any type of formal recommendations from the legislature to Congress, I think we should consider input from the Guam Veterans Commission as a body and as mandated by Guam law. It's my understanding that 2024 is recognized as the Guam Year of the Veteran, and it is recommended that the resolution be strategic and comprehensive to justify the funding, and ask of Congress and the Veterans Administration is strategic, comprehensive, and inclusive of veterans' inputs in Guam, CNMI, and FAS if we're supporting the need to establish a hub. So establishing a hub on Guam, I think, requires some key considerations such as the veteran population assessment, access to care, health needs, local partnerships, cost-benefit analysis, infrastructure and resources, regulatory compliance, feedback from veterans, strategic goals alignment, especially in the geopolitical environment that we're in today, and the Guam being often referred to as the tip of the spear, having a sustainability plan, and establishing a VA resource hub in Guam to serve veterans can be justified through several key arguments. One is geographical accessibility, the increased veteran population, which is the growing veteran community in Guam, as well as support of the local military bases that we provide, as a community. Culture and linguistic competence, where we have bilingual staff. That's a very telling argument and part of providing and improving quality of service for military. Community integration, where we need to build support networks and partner with local organizations. Economic input, which is a big one, which is job creation. And I reviewed a report from the GAO 23-105-953, and it states that the VA has actually employed about 88 staff across the territories as of September 22. Guam accounted for 70% of the vacancies, meaning that they had hard-to-fill positions here on the island. We do have professionals here on the island. We have competent individuals here that could potentially apply for those jobs and fill those gaps. So I think there's an opportunity for us to create jobs here instead of employing people from abroad. Emergency preparedness. One thing I want to say about that is dual purpose role of what was discussed with the congressman about the DOD and VA use of facility, but there's also something called the non-combatant evacuation operations plan, which is the evacuation of U.S. civilians in the Western Pacific region in the event of a disaster. For instance, like the tsunami in Japan. This could be an opportunity to relocate U.S. civilians to Guam, but also provide the dual-purpose health care that could be provided to support them as well. I think that given that the resolution includes the CNMI, FAS, what level of coordination has been done to ensure that a unified approach and agreement moving forward? A unified message of the three entities only help justify the spirit and intent of the resolution, especially in view of the May 2024 GAO report, which is the Veterans Affairs, actions needed to improve access to care in the U.S. territories and freely associated states. I understand that the Guam Veterans Commission is in preparation for providing a response to this. And there are strong opinions that it costs millions of dollars to send veterans to Hawaii for medical care. However, without adequate and verifiable numbers, the emotional arguments could simply be outweighed if financial investment cannot be justified on a cost-benefit analysis. With respect to the numbers, I think the numbers, as far as verification numbers, is extremely important. I did meet with Congressman Moylan in August of 2024, and I asked him to approach the appropriate authorities to mine the electronic data of DD-214s to help determine the numbers of veterans who enlisted in Guam. I'm also was able to participate in a meeting with the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. And at that meeting, I was able to meet with the Deputy Director of the Office of Management and Budget in the White House. And I expressed the same suggestion about trying to mine the data so that we can verify our numbers and use those numbers to justify our need here on Guam. The other thing that I just want to, it's not related to this project, but it could potentially help the funding of any VA services here on Guam, and that is U.S. Public Law 111-383, which the government of Guam is required to provide a list of projects, civilian infrastructure projects outside of the military confines of the U.S. military property. And this is a result of the military buildup. I know that we've moved on beyond that, well beyond that, and the situation has pretty much changed. But I think that this is a source of funding and justification that we should be able to tap into, where there's supposed to be a commitment from other agencies outside of the Department of Defense, such as the VA, Health and Human Services, and so forth to support the need that is required here. But we have to do the legwork and develop a comprehensive proposal to justify that. And I really applaud the efforts and the intent of this resolution, because I think if the resolution is supported by a plan that is developed here locally, that's supported by the government and veterans, I think we'll be better off that way. This is I'm not real keen on how the timing of this works, but one of my comments, questions is, has the timing of this resolution taken into consideration the U.S. presidential election? Guam, CNMI, FAS may be better served to use the remaining months of 2024 to solidify a more comprehensive plan and approach with the aim to include funding for this initiative in the FY 2025 budget, the U.S. budget. Based on the foregoing, I propose that any unified response, which be the Guam executive and legislative branches together with CNMI, FSM, strong letters of support from multiple veterans organizations, be sent after the change of the administration, simply because we're going to be dealing with new leadership and most likely a new Secretary of Veterans Affairs. In conclusion, although the resolution is a step in the right direction, I think more work is needed to strengthen the spirit of intent of the resolution with substantive information. A strategic vision with an implementation schedule with veteran stakeholder participation, veterans organizations endorsements such as the Guam Veterans Affairs, or the Guam Veterans Commission, will be needed in order to further justify any type of funding request. On a side note, and I think it's important to just make a public comment on this. The PAC Act was referenced earlier, and PAC Act allows especially veterans that are stationed here on Guam between, I think, 1960 to 1981. You know, they're eligible for disability benefits, okay, provided they have the symptoms. I can tell you that my dad was stationed here on Guam. We lived on Anderson Air Force Base, and all of us have the symptoms of those that are that would be deemed eligible for the PACT Act. So just like Camp Lejeune and what's happening in Hawaii with the water, I think I invite the legislature to look at that and see whether or not suggestions to the public law, the U.S. public law, could be modified to include civilians as well as the military members. Madam Speaker, that concludes my position statement, and just to be clear, I am in support of the resolution. I just think it needs a little bit more work, and I think in the interest of time, I think we could make best use of our time to develop a more comprehensive proposal with stakeholder input and submit after the new administration is in place. Thank you.
Mr. Regis. We'll also hear now from Stephen Amaquin.
Test. Half a day. Good morning, my favorite senators. Thank you for this opportunity to actually get out of my retirement to testify. By the way, my name is Stephen Amagan, retired from government of Guam for 31 years. I am here today to initially support whatever resolutions that we may have for veterans. But first, I would like to ask a moment of silence for our fellow veterans who have made the ultimate sacrifices while serving our nation. Okay. Also to acknowledge and grateful to all the hard work of our fellow islanders that has chosen their profession to help veterans at the U.S. Veterans offices that we have here in Guam. I think one in Tijan, one in Maiti. Ms. Susana Mafnas with the Guam Army National Guard, West Care, and all veterans organization and the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. And lastly, their family members, loved ones who have supported us, them, during their services to our great nation. They also need probably a resolution, and maybe just a round of applause for supporting our veterans. Special thanks to our local businesses that support our veterans by offering discounts, 10%, right? Agustin, CPK, Home Depot, my favorite. Parking stalls of veterans, courtesy of the veterans of foreign wars. You see all those red parking spaces for veterans only, and I think they're more respected than our handicapped parking stalls, because nobody wants to park if they're not veterans. For some reason, I don't know why. I am also a veteran of 3 branches of U.S. military service, having to serve with the United States Marine Corps from 1985 to 1989. Deployed twice as part of the Marine Expeditionary Unit in Western Pacific, which is here in Guam, right, around this area. The Marines will be the first one to respond on any type of incidents that happens in Guam or any time in the Western Pacific. And the Mediterranean, we call that our med float, but actually it's in the Middle East. The same mission that we have as a Marine will be the first one to respond. And I joined the United States Army Reserve MARIANA from 1989 to 1991, and the Guam Air National Guard from 2000, and retired in 2018 with 2 Afghanistan deployments, but I don't claim myself to be a combat veteran. I have an opportunity to go to Philippines, actually to visit the Death March in Bataan and all that, where my uncle was a survivor. And my wife and I got up and down that hill, and I said, like, even as a young man, I don't think I'll be able to survive that Death March. And I, honor their sacrifices during that time. Filipinos fighting along with the U.S. military service. I have the honor to be in Afghanistan when Osama bin Laden was finally caught, and to see the joy and celebration of my fellow service members also brought joy to me while eating that delicious food in our chow hall at Camp Marmal in Mazar-e-Sharif, Afghanistan. Upon my retirement, I did not expect our community to pay back my services because I'm not a Vietnam-era veteran where they were drafted. I call myself a Pepsi generation veteran that I voluntarily signed up to serve our country, my country now. I was born and raised in the Philippines and was being paid during my services. I know that VA benefits are not automatic. Again, I'm going to reiterate. VA benefits are not automatic and have to apply for approval. Added benefits, I have to apply for the approval. Added benefits to my retirement I will not receive until I turn 60 in another 10 years. I've been blessed to be a recipient of U.S. Veterans Affairs benefits after a constant reminder from Ms. Susana Mafnas to file my claims. Yes, the difference begins with me to make that effort to apply. The difference does not begins with you or anybody else, but for my fellow veterans to make that extra effort to apply, to register, to have the benefit from the VA. Since my receipt of my deserving VA benefits, I am more than satisfied for all the services. Okay, I'm speaking for myself. No data, no other open source thing that I have to share with you all. that has provided, especially our hardworking employees at VA community-based outpatient clinic, they call it CBOC. That's a VA facility close to Naval Hospital. Okay? That's a VA facility close to Naval Hospital. The same VA facility, Matsunaga Clinic in Hawaii, a clinic co-located with Tripler Hospital in Hawaii's state. Okay? As a VA benefit recipient, I am talking through my experience. I can receive the following. It may be long. All my medical prescriptions via mail from Hawaii. Okay, I know it's from Hawaii. Or I can pick them up from Naval Hospital. Prescriptions that I must personally request for refills like any other prescriptions from local doctors. No difference. Online, via my own established VA account. That's why I encourage our fellow veterans to establish their account, and the Real ID helps. Obtaining the Real ID will expedite your application with the VA account. Took me a while to get an ID me, but when I finally got my Real ID, not the fake one, I finally have an account that accessible anytime. The ability to communicate with my primary care physician using the secured messaging from my VA account about medical concern or inquiries. This accessibility to the physicians is hard to find from any clinics. Any clinics, you have to wait 3 to 4 months. It's not like what other people are saying that you can just walk into any clinics, oh, I want to see a doctor. No, it's not. I've been there, done that. So that's the reality of the whole thing. If I need services that the doctors at CBOC are not able to provide, for example, X-ray was mentioned, the ultrasound, the magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, minor surgeries and physical therapy, VA refer me to the care in the community. That's happening now, okay? That's the services that VA is providing to me. Okay, I'm not speaking on behalf of other veterans because this is my experience. Their referrals are quicker than any other referrals that I have received from any local clinics. I always receive my referral via an immediate callback or email in a week. It's totally awesome, right? Totally different from local clinics. I have chosen to have my rheumatologist consultation with Hawaii via the modern era of telemedicine. Since Guam has only one rheumatologist, and I believe at Guam Regional Medical City, you know why? Because nobody wants to come here. We can't maintain our hospital. A privately owned hospital that has been receiving their accreditations since their existence. Probably Guam Memorial Hospital needs to take heed and find out exactly how they're receiving those accreditation. Eligible veterans has the choice to go to the local clinic via the VA care in the community if their preferred physician that is part of the VA medical network. Right now, I've been blessed. We only have one gastroenterologist, I believe, Dr. Paul Muña at GMH, the only one. VA referred me to that. Okay, so thankful to VA. Eligible veterans can walk in at CBOC to be seen by a triage nurse. They will make that determination if you need to go to the hospital, or they can provide that care for you. Eligible veterans can also use the in-network urgent care clinics for minor injuries, illnesses that are not life-threatening. I've used FHP. When my gut acts up in the middle of the night, I'll go there. When the clinics are closed, I'll go there. And they take care of me at no charge. Those are the great benefits that VA is providing for our local veterans here in Guam, only if they apply and they get qualified for. Eligible veterans can also go to our local emergency rooms for any life-threatening medical conditions. I have used this process when I was experiencing chest pains. And yes, the medical staff at U.S. Naval Hospital had made sure that all tests were conducted before my release, 6 to 7 hours later. I'm very thankful for all their effort to make sure that I wasn't having a heart attack. Eligible veterans can also go to the Guam Memorial Hospital, God bless them, or GRMC, Guam Memorial Hospital. The employees there are hardworking employees. They received the awards during COVID. All we have to do is support them, fix and maintain that hospital before we build another hospital. Eligible veterans can, or GRMC. The only requirement that they have is a mandatory reporting 72 hours after they use the emergency room. The number is 1-844-724-7842. Urgent care does not require reporting. If you use FHP has been great to me. I'm not advertising for them, but they've been great. Eligible veterans can also schedule an appointment to be seen by any specialist from Hawaii that comes to CBOC every 3 months. They have my GI doctor used to come here, but he left. So I was referred to GMH. But those are the opportunities that we have as veterans to actually find out if there's any specialist that comes to Guam. Because, it's not just the VAs having problem with specialists. The whole island of Guam. That's the reality of life here in Guam. On any medical services and medical specialties, VA CBOC will make the arrangement to refer the eligible veterans to an off-island care, just like our local medical insurance who has a network clinics or hospital in continental United States or my country, the Philippines. We scrutinize doctors from the Philippines because they're not certified, but yet our medical insurance referred them to doctors in the Philippines that's still not certified. So I don't see the logic to that. Eligible veterans can also use the services of the Veterans Transportation Services to go to their scheduled VA medical appointments. These services will save the veterans money, gas money. I mean, the gas right now outside is $4.89, while on base only $3.29. VA Transportation Services can be reached at 671-475-5833, Monday to Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and closed on federal holidays. As a matter of fact, my wife reminded me last night, say, hey, honey, you need to prepare your testimony because, you have to be prepared. You're not going to be all over the place. I said, I think that's a good idea. So I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning writing this, okay? No charge to the government of Guam. Okay, 4:58 a.m. today, but they were closed. And it was just an answering machine. I did not leave any messages because I don't like talking to answering machine. And luckily they didn't ask if I was a Spanish, because Spanish is the second language back in the United States. I did not leave any messages, but at 7 o'clock this morning, I received a call from them inquiring if I need their services. How great is that? They called me back. I didn't even leave a message. Now that's what I call an example of an awesome service from our VA, the Veterans Affairs, that they provide. As I continue to review this statement, I accidentally called the same number. They call that that call, right? And a callback was made, and I explained to them that it was accidental. The VA employee, he sounded like one of our fellow islanders. Those are federal employees that I believe contributes to our Section 30 money, right? Inquired if I was all right, making sure that I was all right, that was okay. And I reassured the caller, I didn't get her name, but kudos to CBOC employees for taking care of me. The civilian staff, the doctors, even everybody there, my fellow islanders, military dependents that's serving as a medical staff, they're doing such an awesome job. Eligible veterans will soon experience the added services when VA opens their annex by GRMC. Remember, it made the news. By GRMC, that's a VA facility. Added service for local veterans. You made the news. At one point, there was also news that they were even going to see if they can use that for GMH. But fix GMH first before we dream big. Build at an EPA point. Will make more sense. Well, let's save the government more money. eligible veterans will soon experience that, right? And I'm glad that they will do it. And I believe I was informed that they may be opening in January of next year. And I'm excited because there's added services for me and my fellow veterans that will take their time to register. This resolution will negate, undermine the challenging work by the employees of the U.S. Veterans Offices here in Guam. My fellow Marine here, his office, the GOVA, they helped me get my license plate. That will give me a free renewal registration every year. 4 license plates I can have with 3 different branches of service because I serve 3 different branches of service. And thank you, sir, for the hard work of your employees at GOVA. Okay? I strongly believe that before we demand the added services from U.S. Veterans Affairs, that as an island, we should fully support our GOVA. Give them the needed budget to provide the services for veterans and collaborate more with the U.S. VA and how to improve their services. We all know that GOVA needed a better place. We know the priority right now is not to fix GOVA. And also the priority is not to fix GMH, but to build a new one someplace else where nobody can access. Okay? It will cost the taxpayers, my children's children in the future. Okay? They will be paying for those expenses that we want to spend because we just want to build one. We can't even fix GMH. Why build a new one? GOVA could have moved to another leased property, more accessible to veterans. You know, the old Guam legislature. Remember? There was a news that they're going to move Guam Veterans Affairs Office there, right? Office of Veterans Affairs. Nothing happened. You know why? Because a little smoke at the Guam Department of Public Health and Social Services caused them to abandon the building. It could have been fixed. I mean, I'm an electrician. 18 years as an electrician. I had spoken to some of the employees. They said, "Hey, Steve, that's only smoke. They could have fixed that." I'm saying, I'm not their party. If our government declared a state of emergency, the state of emergency will allow an agency $250,000, within 30 days, right, to fix that building. They have done it before with the Department of Corrections. I was reading one of the old public law when the declaration of state of emergency. They've done it for DOC. I am quite sure they could have done that for public health. Right now, they're all over the place. They need to move them back so that also our veterans can utilize the public health as their one-stop building. At one point, that was a one-stop building. I used to apply for my food stamps there. I used to apply for my son's WIC there. I used to get vital statistic from that place. Now I need to find a map, exactly where they're located, someplace in Tamuning, all over the place. So please, also do a veterans favors and make sure that public health is fixed so that our veterans can also utilize that in their family. It is election season. We know we veterans are our priority. So support our own Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. Give them the funding to help our veterans. Local veterans organization, so that they're not going to work hard to do all these fundraisings, right, to help our fellow veterans. Why are we having to have NGOs raise funds to help our veterans where we have that ability as a government to do so? Why do we have to ask volunteers to help clean my future home, the Guam Veterans Cemetery? I have a condo there. Twice a month? Why? Because as a government, we failed to provide the money so that the director here can spruce up that place. We don't need the NGOs, all the volunteers to do that. We already volunteered our time to serve this country. Nobody twisted my arms, and I'm not going to let them twist my arms to fix my own home, my future home. Sorry. We have a government that will be able to do that. Utilize the money that we have here Okay? As a matter of fact, I read the budget law all the time. The rainy day fund, right? 2% supposed to go to a certain account. 18 million this year, 18 million last year, $16 million last year. I mean, I give it take probably about $50 million sitting someplace. And the only time that the rainy day fund can be used if during the state of emergency, or to be utilized to pay off the deficit, right? But they said there's no deficit. Why is that Guam Memorial Hospital is $46 million short? Or no, GDOH is $46 million short. Why is GMH is having a hard time? GMH will take care of our veterans. Having a hard time trying to collect bills because the last public hearing program that they bought is not supposed to be working or is not jiving. So listening to the rest of the guys, right? Registry. Guam Code Annotated Title 10, Chapter 67. There's something there about the registry, veteran registry. We need to probably revisit that and amend it. I know there was a bill that was showed to me by one of the senators that will allow, I believe, a certain agency, but this is already in the law. Why can't we revisit this, put an amendment, right? Because right now I believe it's only DD 214 that has to be submitted by agencies to this, to my hardworking devil dog here. 24,000 DD 214s, right? If an amendment is introduced to have OTEC, Office of Technology, right? Mr. Lujan, I believe, still in charge there. Create a database to be utilized by all agencies so that we'll be in sync. Because I know the government of Guam right now is not in sync, but we can start with our fellow veterans by making the database sync so that we can have a full accountability of our fellow veterans on this island, so that we can have the actual count of the 24,000 veterans with DD 214 that we can show VA. Okay, we hired 10 employees for GOVA. 5 of them was a VSO. So hopefully they were part of that hiring process was also including training to have them to be certified. They're working so hard. Okay, they only have a small room, and I don't want to go upstairs to the office because I have a pneumonia. My knee is bad. Okay, it's in Urban Dictionary, pneumonia. More funding. Okay, the problem with the registration, right, is that some of my fellow veterans, especially the retired from the active duty, they're more satisfied with the services that they receive from the military. Because, if they don't receive 50% or above, they cannot keep both of their VA benefit, their VA compensation. If they have 50% and above, then they get to keep both. They can double dip. So that's probably one of the reasons why they're stopping. They're satisfied with the services that they receive. Okay, more funding. The funding that I'm asking for is also for, we keep hounding on the U.S. Veterans Affairs for the media and all that, right? Why can't we empower our local our Guam office, the Veterans Affairs, give them the money to do the media blitz, right? To have the campaign, educate our local veterans. Why are we depending on the federal government all the time? Now we're demanding that do you want the federal government to establish that we can't even take care of our own veterans? We can't even support our GOVA. So, but I still support this resolution with those conditions. Okay, do our homework first, as what Mr. Wages is saying, before we start biting the hand that feeds us. And you guys mentioned about exposure, right? I was exposed to the burn pit. My wife and I were exposed to the contaminated water in Camp Lejeune. But you know what? I can say I am blessed that I don't have those conditions. I don't pray to God that I will get that just for the money, because my health is more important than money. And again, that concludes my testimony I know is quite long. It's not based on data. It's not a data-driven testimony, but it's an experience. And hopefully you guys believe me, because I did not swear in. I might be lying, but that's the facts. And I thank you guys for this opportunity. And I hope I'm not going to be cross-examined while sitting here. Thank you, and I thank our veterans, our VA, for helping us out. We need to do our job as a local government. Take care of our veterans first. Okay. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Mr. Amagwe. Appreciate your testimony. We now have Ginger Cruz and then Mr. Terlaje. And could I ask Joe Mofnes to also have a seat? Oh, okay then. All right, please proceed.
Can I go?
You may sit wherever you'd like. We'd like to ask you questions when we're done, though,
Okay,
if that's possible.
You have a VA appointment?
Sure. All right, Ms. Cruz.
Thank you very much, Speaker Therese, Terlaje, honorable senators, and of course to all of the veterans and friends that are here today. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I am Ginger Cruz. I'm a policy advocate, and I also am the Democratic nominee for the congressional delegate seat to Washington, D.C. I'm here today to express my strong support for Resolution 472-37, a vital piece of legislation introduced by Senator Telo Taitague. This resolution is a critical step in advocating for the needs of our veterans in Guam and the surrounding region. It is time to stand up and demand fair and equal treatment. For generations, our island's veterans have answered the call to defend American liberty, often at great personal sacrifice. And yet, when these brave men and women return home, many face significant barriers to accessing the benefits for care that they have earned. This, frankly, is geographic discrimination. Despite serving under the same flag and enduring the same physical and mental hardships, our veterans on Guam are treated differently simply because they live 5,000 miles away from the U.S. mainland. Policies designed for the states simply do not fit U.S. territories like Guam, which lies within the Asian Pacific. While I worked in Iraq, I witnessed firsthand the dedication and sacrifices of our military. But I also saw how swiftly the Department of Defense could mobilize resources to meet the needs of active duty personnel. I can tell you, when the federal government wants to act, it can. When these service members return home, they deserve the same rights, care, and support as veterans living anywhere else. Our Declaration of Independence proclaims it to be self-evident that all men are created equal. But unfortunately, as the late Congressman and General Ben Blas aptly said, we are equal in war, but not in peace. The Department of Veterans Affairs is responsible for providing health care, benefits, and support to veterans and their families. And yet veterans on Guam continue to struggle with access to these services. It's not about the numbers. It is about the distance. With airfares often exceeding $3,000 for a round trip to Hawaii's Pacific Regional VA office, the federal government is wasting millions of dollars that could be better used to establish a regional center here on Guam. I have heard there are estimates between $3 and $4 million spent annually just on airfare for Guam veterans traveling to Hawaii, and that number could possibly be higher. Imagine if that money was invested instead in a regional veterans office and healthcare center right here on Guam, serving not only our island, but the CNMI and the Federated States of Micronesia, Palau, and the Republic of the Marshall Islands veterans. Now, let me just quickly address this issue of numbers. GAO Report 24-106364, issued in May of this year, clearly outlines the flawed methodology used by the VA to estimate the veteran population in Guam. The current VET-POP model, which is what it's called, undercounts our veterans. And as has been stated by several of the people testifying here today, including Therese, I believe a more accurate approach could involve cross-referencing the DD 214 forms with Guam's real state IDs to establish a baseline. It's 2024. Let's use databases that we're spending so much time building. But even if we get that issue resolved, we need to move past this false notion that Guam must somehow meet a magic number to deserve a regional center. It is not about hitting a specific number. It is about addressing the significant geographic challenges that make accessing care difficult and sometimes impossible for our veterans, which is a fundamental issue of fairness and obligation to those who have stepped up to serve. I just want to make a side note here. We didn't have the numbers when back in the 1990s, Guam was facing geographic discrimination because we had long distance rates that were like in excess of $2, $3 a minute. Our children on Guam couldn't access the internet. We went before the FCC, and we fought that as an island in the Gutierrez-Bordallo administration, and we won because it wasn't a matter of the numbers. We only had 150, 180,000 people on Guam. It was about fairness. It is about Guam's location and ensuring that we get equitable treatment despite the fact that we're located so far away. So it's been done before. The United States values Guam for its strategic location in the Pacific, but that same exact geographic position should not be the reason to deny our veterans the care they deserve. Veterans from Guam simply can't drive to the nearest VA facility like their counterparts on the mainland. Additionally, the renegotiated Compacts of Free Association includes a new congressional mandate that the VA provide services to FAS veterans. Guam is the most logical place to house a regional center, and given that many FAS citizens already travel here for medical care, this could be a solution, and we've already got a sense of Congress that is requiring the VA to do this. So that comports exactly with what we are trying to do. The GAO report also highlights that many Guam veterans are denied airfare benefits despite their need for medical care, and establishing a regional office on Guam would improve the speed of processing veterans' claims, which currently take 25% longer than average. Robust VA healthcare could be expanded in several ways. Through use of the Naval Hospital on Guam, which would not only serve veterans, but expanded use could also bolster Indo-PACOM's desire to expand war reserve healthcare capacity in the region. Dual use at its best. And I would note, just to clarify, there were some statements that are made earlier here, especially if you look at that GAO report. It's very clear that there is an existing and robust capability for the Department of Defense and the Veterans Administration to coordinate and reimburse each other for dual use of Department of Defense facilities. And we know that the Indo-PACOM Command is very, very focused on expanding the capabilities at Naval Hospital, expanding them as a trauma center, expanding them for so many other reasons. And what Indo-PACOM really wants to do is, as it expands the use of Naval Hospital, it doesn't want it just sitting there unused. It also looks to find ways that that can be utilized. So it's the perfect combination. Our veterans need more services. Indo-PACOM wants greater capability to be available in Guam. It works together very well. There is a mechanism. These MOUs are done all the time. Naval Hospital has done it before. It can do it again. And this resolution will continue to push that to be able to happen. Local clinics and pharmacies need to continue to be utilized to also meet veterans' needs, and future infrastructure planned for Guam's new public hospital can also help meet the need. But the solution lies in proportionality. Once we have a better count of veterans across Guam, the CNMI, and the FAS, the VA can develop a proportionate solution for both benefits and health care, funded in part by the savings from reduced travel expenses. However they do it, the bottom line is exactly what this resolution is about. It needs to be here. The GAO clearly concludes that veterans in Guam, the CNMI, and the FAS face unique and substantial challenges accessing the VA healthcare and non-healthcare benefits that they have earned. This resolution represents a watershed moment for Guam's leadership to stand united in support of our veterans, aiming high and reaching for the noble goal of righting this injustice. Our veterans fought for our freedom, and now the policymakers must fight just as hard for the care and the promise that they deserve. As our region grows in geopolitical importance, so too does our veteran population. Addressing this issue is not a short-term concern. It's a long-term commitment to those who sacrifice for our nation. Investing in the well-being of our veterans is an investment in the future of Guam's community. Veterans bring invaluable skills, leadership, and resilience. In honoring our moral obligation, we not only uplift individual lives, but we strengthen our entire society and all of Micronesia. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Ms. Cruz. Mr. Ralph Terlaje.
Thank you, Senator. Buenas, Senators. My name is Ralph Telo. I'm a retired Army veteran, and I'm not part of any veterans organization here on Guam, but I'm just a voice in the dark representing all veterans that are going through what I'm going through. I'm here to provide testimony on Resolution 472-37LS. As a veteran with service-related injuries, I rely heavily on the services and benefits that are available through the Veterans Administration. However, it is the speed and the efficiency of how these services are provided that often frustrates most veterans. The Hawaii Regional Office is the main hub that serves the Asia-Pacific region. The lack of interpersonal contact between their office and our veterans does not paint a picture of urgency and desperation that is associated with face-to-face interaction. Distance plays a key role in how medical referrals are prioritized, like what the good Ginger said. We often read about casualties of war in the Middle East, but does it linger in our thoughts for more than a day? No. But if it was to hit closer to home, that impact would drive a sense of urgency and initiate an immediate response. Such is the case when it comes to the medical concerns of our local veterans. The power of persuasion falls short in the absence of adversity. Let me say that again. The power of persuasion falls short in the absence of adversity. This resolution aims to bridge that gap. Veterans in the Asia-Pacific region, mainly Guam, the CNMI, and the FAS face many challenges when it comes to navigating the intricacies involving in obtaining medical assistance not offered in our geographical location. In order for our veterans to be approved for off-island medical care, they must first be seen by a local physician who would determine if specialty care for off-island care is needed. A referral is then submitted to the regional VA office in Hawaii. That request is then sent to the CBOC for distribution. This process alone takes time, and time is not a luxury most veterans can afford to wait on. Family support is an essential part of a veteran's road to recovery, and unless it is determined that that veteran's condition does not warrant family support, this request is often denied. If a regional office can be established here on the island that can assist with the veterans and eliminate a lot of the confusion that comes with off-island travel, this will ease the burden that the veterans face and relieve a lot of the stress that we all face when traveling, especially to a place we are not familiar with. A lot of the questions that the service member may have can be answered directly if there is a regional office located here in Guam. Such things as, hey, can I talk to the doctor specifically on my condition? The CBOC won't be able to help you with that. Can I get a wheelchair provided for me when I get to that location? The CBOC can't answer that for you. The regional office can. Some of the medical conditions that do not require off-island treatment still face many obstacles. Medication that a veteran needs must be requested and sent via mail from Hawaii. So your hypertension medication, your diabetes medication comes through the mail, not through the pharmacy here. Service members suffering from mental illness are entertained virtually, as there are no facilities available on island to hold group sessions. Before I close, I'd like to share a little story of mine about some of the obstacles that I faced recently. So I went to the CBOC to ask for prescription glasses because I have a hard time reading printed material. That request was sent to Hawaii. I got an email from them 3 weeks later telling me the location, the date, and the time that I was to report for my eye exam. Unfortunately, that date conflicted with an off-island trip that I was going to take. So I went to that clinic that was mentioned on that email to try and reschedule my appointment. The receptionist at that clinic told me I cannot make that request personally. It has to come from Hawaii. And a lot of my veterans here know, try calling Hawaii. You'll be lucky if you get them on the first try. After several attempts, I finally got in touch with somebody. And I told him my situation, that I wanted prescription glasses before I went on this trip. He told me he'll try to see what he can do, but it's not up to him. To make a long story short, it took 2 months later, after I arrived from my trip, to get those glasses, which is this right here. It just behooves me that I couldn't even make my own reschedule for an appointment. It has to come from Hawaii. Why? Why is that? If there was a regional office here, I could have gone to them and said, hey, I need that prescription glasses before I go because I can't read materials. That's the power of persuasion. That's my adversity. That's when that regional office can say, hey, you know what? Let me call them right now and schedule you for tomorrow. That's what I mean by distance has the way that referrals are made, distance has a priority, right? The distance plays a key role in how medical referrals are handled, are prioritized. That's basically where I come from. Again, my experience is not through data, it's through what every one of our veterans are experiencing. Now, this resolution may not be perfect, but it's going to get the ball rolling, all right? Like I said, I'm just a voice in the dark. I'm just here to express some of the frustrations that a lot of our veterans here experience. And I know some of us here saying they take advantage of a lot of these benefits that the veterans that, you know, they get an immediate response. But the thing is that a lot of these veterans don't know about these benefits. They don't. Maybe we need to get an organization together and go door to door and get these numbers that everybody is talking about, right? Other than that, I would like to thank Senator Telo for sponsoring this resolution, and to all the senators who are co-sponsors. We, the veterans community, really, truly appreciate your support. Thank you.
We also have, so signed up, just as present today, members from the 668 VVA, Alfred Zaragoza, I can't read the last name very clearly, Zaragoza or something, Rocky Camacho, Juan Cruz, Roman Farron. If any of you would like to testify, you're welcome. Otherwise, we also have Dan Mendiola, Dan Kogar, and Charlie Hermosa signed up, but not to testify necessarily. If anyone would like to testify, please let me know. And then we do have signed up also Anthony Tyrone and Roy Gamboa. If any of you would like to testify today, please come to a chair. All right. Thank you all again for being here. Sure. Mr. Hermosa?
Yes, good morning, Speaker, and thank you so much. Good morning, Senators. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to just say a little bit on the discussion and the resolution. First and foremost, I am in support of the resolution. In what I've been hearing today, I mean, all the points have been made as far as why we need a regional office here. But one of the things that we also need to make sure that we take into account is the fact that we do have a local office, and we do have a current structure that we need to make sure that we fix before we look outside. So do we need a regional office? Absolutely, we're in support of that. But we also need to ensure that we fix our local regional office. If we do bring in the regional office and we look into the GOVA, what is GOVA going to do? What type of support are they going to give us? If we look into the council that we have today, what are they going to serve at? How are they going to support the governor's proposals and everything they want to do under the Veteran Affairs? So One of the things that, although the resolution is not perfect, it's definitely the right step. We definitely need to make sure that we have a regional office. I just want to make sure that we can continue to look at making some recommendations and ensuring that we look at our current office, our GOVA office, and ensure that they have everything that they need to adequately support our local things that we need. So that's my only recommendation. I just want to make sure that I put that on record, that I am in support of the resolution, but we do have some recommendations. I would like to make those recommendations, and we make sure that we look at the GOVA office and ensure that we fix that first, and ensure that we have the structure in place to be able to support all the services that they're supposed to provide to the people of Guam. Thank you.
Mr. Hermosa. Mr. Gamboa.
Good morning, Senators, Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I'm the president of Gotcha 671, a local nonprofit organization. What you have in front of you is a written draft letter, so I will go on record, of course, like everybody else in here, in support of the resolution. This is a great start. I often wonder why we hadn't done something like this a long time ago. So one of the things that we have done recently was we convened the Guam Veterans Commission, which currently has 8 members with both national and local veteran organizations, with at least 2 more groups.
Mr. Gamboa,
Yes.
can you clarify? So are you representing the Veterans Commission or yourself?
At this point, the document that I'm going to be sharing is the Guam Veterans Commission. So at this point, the Veterans Commission.
All right, please proceed.
So what I shared is a draft document that each of you has in front of you. I think with the letter, if you look at it, it's our request is in draft right now. Each of the organization leaderships, their presidents, their chapter leaders, we're given a copy, and basically what we're doing is we're acknowledging what everyone else has presented here, the GAO report indicating that the United States Veterans Affairs has just been grossly undercounting our veterans here on the island of Guam. For numerous years, many of the veterans in this room have been asking the VA how many veterans travel to and from Hawaii for services or beyond. We've often asked what the budget was in the past, and that number was rarely, if ever, shared with us. Only until recently was it discovered, in between, like we said, $3 to $4 million a year. I have my own personal opinions, of course, as to why that number is extremely high. Oftentimes, being flown out to Hawaii for 5-minute appointments is just total waste of government funds. But Hawaii controls the purse strings. Everything has to be run through Hawaii. Everything we request for is always secondary to what Hawaii asks for to begin with. And because of our culture, whatever, we've played nice for many years. We've accepted it for what it is, but we've got to call it what it is, and it's just being insidious with keeping that funding in Hawaii. Times are going to change. They can't hide behind the veil anymore. There's numerous reasons as to why Guam deserves the regional hub out here. But the letter you see in front of you is a proposed draft that the leaders of the Guam Veterans Commission is requesting that the VA come to Guam, take an accurate count. If they're not going to spend the time or the effort, then at least accept the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs count of the veterans that are already here in Guam. Some of the additional requests, of course, are what other people have already mentioned. Improve the services, the mental health services, improve the medical services as well to the island of Guam, and just give the veterans on Guam what we are due. Other veterans have given their testimony of giving blood, sweat, and tears. And we've known many of our brothers and sisters have even given their lives in support of our nation and in support of our island, in defense of our island. So on behalf of course, also the Guam Veterans Commission, we support the legislation. It is a start, and from there, hopefully the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs takes note of what we're trying to do on a local effort. And if you need our veterans to rise up in any way, shape, or form, by all means, we're ready to do that with you. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gamboa. So what is the status of this letter?
This letter was given to, was shared at the Guam Veterans Commission meeting just on Friday this past week. I've passed it out, we shared it so that each organization could review and make their recommendations on changes or additions to this letter. And when we convene at the next meeting, October 25th, that letter will be put hopefully into final draft form at that time.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to yield now to the sponsor of the resolution, Senator Telo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the overwhelming support for this resolution. It was mentioned it's not perfect, but I don't think this is going to be the only resolution that's going to be sent to Congress in the next, 2 or 3 years. I'm pretty sure there's going to be another senator who's going to come up after this term is ended in the 37th Guam legislation, in the 38th. Someone should also send another resolution just like this. And then it'll keep going until we get recognized in Congress. I know I'm glad, I was hoping that Ginger Cruz would stay behind because she made a comment with regards to the numbers. And I know that since I've been in the legislature, or even the government of Guam for 17 years, I keep hearing the excuses of numbers that we need to provide these numbers and this data in order for Congress to hear us. To me, it's almost sounding like an excuse why we shouldn't be sending this. Mr. Gamboa hit it on the nail when he says, why isn't this resolution introduced a long time ago? That's because we had so many barriers in front of us. People were too afraid to put this resolution together because they're getting, oh, we need this data, oh, it's going to hurt our NGOs, we're not going to. No, that's not the case. We have a great VA office that this body, at least everyone I know here, supported, providing funding for the local VA office. $1 million, if I'm not mistaken. I also had a bill that provided over $300,000 to provide a van. Almost $2 million total. So we are providing funding for the VA. We are giving them a lot more than they've had in the last 10 years, ever. Now we need to work on Congress. Now we need to bring that resolution here the resolution in Congress and bring a regional office here. It'll be a different office from the VA. The VA has so much on their hands right now that they have to deal with. But that office that's in Hawaii, that handles Guam cases, why is it in Hawaii? It needs to be on Guam. And then with all the FSM and the CNMI, those numbers are going to build up even more so for Congress to see. I also like to thank those who submitted testimony too. Hilario Bermanis, I know I'm saying the last name wrong, but it's Bermars from Ponape. We sent out I think Mr. Terlaje, he got his letter in the PDN and the Post and recommended that they send testimony in. And we received testimony from the outer islands that came in. They can't be here today, but they sent it in. We also have one from David Del Piori, Patricia Gay, and I'd like to thank them for sending in their testimony. I really don't have any questions for anybody that was here. I know that the resolution is not perfect, but if we keep making that excuse that something's not perfect, not to send it over to Congress, then we'll be sitting here for another, as long as I've been here, 17 years, waiting to send something in to make it perfect. No, it's not. But what we can do is we can send this resolution in, and every resolution after that, we can make it better. But let's not stop this resolution from going through. So again, I thank you, everyone who's here to testify, and especially those in the CNMI and FSM that sent in their testimony as well. Again, it's not going to be the first resolution on this subject. It'll be many more after. So thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
Mr. St. Augustine, can I ask you a question, if you don't mind? There have been some suggestions as to different ways to increase our count or verify our count. You have presented those DD-14s or the list that you, 214s that you have, but they're not being recognized right now. Is that like a formal request for recognition of that count?
Well, Madam Speaker, we're working with several other organizations to include the active duty folks trying to help us really identify a good software that can assist us in being able to have our veterans go online and register, but also at the same time utilizing that same type of software to identify the veterans that we do have on our DD-214, whether they still reside on Guam or have moved on to other jurisdictions. But right now, the numbers of 24,000 based on what I have, DD-214, is a solid number that I'll always use until such time that a database can assist us. And I can tell you that I am predicting that the numbers will go higher than what we got. If we got that many DD-214 of veterans that we've been serving, and a reasonable amount of folks that are on island that are veterans as well that have not registered with our office, I anticipate the number to go up. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but this, all right. I was asking more whether there's been a formal, we're presenting these numbers, this is how we have counted it, and obviously it's not the same, but have you ever submitted that formally? No, I thought we did do software for a database. I thought there was a computer system that was put in to do exactly that years ago.
Well, when you and I started it right back in 2017, which Mr. Regis here had, or I think the other gentleman had testified using the government of Guam database where Mr. Lujan resides. Those, if you ask me, any type of document that belongs to the government should reside at the where Mr. Lujan works, right? Where all the computer systems are at, the database are residing, and apparently at the conclusion of whatever software we determine, it's going to have to be Mr. Lujan's office that would manage that database for us, and how that database will look like.
All right, so you're talking about Mr. Lujan, the Office of OTEC?
Office of Technology, yes.
And that's something that you are trying to get them to do?
Since you and I started and that's where it's got to reside, because it's a government of Guam information and data. And so they have full control, and they should have full control of how this software is applied, downloaded, and for them to also manage it for us.
All right, Mike, I feel like this number, 24,000, we've been talking about for years, but it should have changed, right, over the years. So I'm wondering, and we have been supposedly, through the veterans license plates, encouraging that registration, right, so that we can count them. And other methods that we had proposed through the mayors, that they were supposed to count also the veterans in their villages. But I guess I'm curious how we're at the same number. Maybe I'm thinking it should have changed, but also, is this possible? Has anyone told you that this is possible to cross-reference the databases of other agencies?
Yes, yes.
It's just not done?
It's not done, yes.
All right, okay, thank you. Any other questions, Senator Brown, Senator Perez? Oh, sorry, Senator Brown.
I don't have any questions, but I do appreciate the time and effort all of you have come to provide your insight. And certainly I think the time is, even though it's taken a long time for us to get to this stage, I think we definitely should leverage the attention that we have in Washington these days with the buildup and everything else that's going on. I think it's a prime opportunity to push this issue, and certainly for our congressional representative to do so as well. I think it balances the challenges that we're going through right now with this buildup. And again, I mean, it's only fair. I mean, the service has been provided, and in return, we should not have to go through the challenges. I mean, what mentioned just to get, you know, your eyeglass prescription and having to wait to go to Hawaii or get clearance from them and not be able to have that issue addressed as soon as possible so that you as a veteran can get the service you need. And that's getting a pair of eyeglasses. What about other more serious health issues and challenges that our veterans are receiving? So I certainly, you know, appreciate everyone's continued initiative. I know it's challenging, but almost anything and everything we've had to do in Washington, D.C., we've had to push for it. It has had to be a Guam initiative. So thank all of you once again for coming in and providing your voice to this issue. And I think we're that much more galvanized with the need to move forward with this. So thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Senator Brown. Senator Perez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do appreciate everyone who testified here today. It was very detailed. I feel like a lot of the answers are here, and I want to encourage, I guess, more integrated discussion and perhaps putting a proposal forward, a stronger proposal. I really appreciate all the recommendations from all of you. I know with Eddie Rages, I know he's not here anymore, but I think this is a very good, opportunity to use his recommendations to put forward a very strong proposal to ensure that the needs are met. And so I know the resolution is just a start, but I feel that it almost seems like maybe perhaps we can look at appropriations also. I think that was another suggestion, is incorporating an appropriations element to it, or possibly creating another resolution to tie it in with this proposal of the feasibility and all that, because I think that's what's needed to make the change. Obviously, the status quo is serving the interest of somebody else, right? And so how do we overcome that inertia? I think that's something we have to look at very closely to make this change. I know this is a bipartisan effort on Guam, which is very much needed, but to overcome that, the inertia that exists is we need to really come at it with a very strong approach. And I really like also the recommendation to utilize the MOA agreement, right, memorandum of agreement that currently between the DOD and the Office of Veterans Affairs. I think that's really kind of perhaps potentially a low-hanging fruit in all of this. Of course, we want a local regional office to be established here, so our veterans don't experience these hurdles, which shouldn't exist to begin with, right? It really deters access to health care, and which is what the Congress has passed bills like the PACT Act to remove those barriers, but yet we are still experiencing these barriers. So I think, I want to support a strong, unified approach for Guam to get what it deserves. Thank you.
Senator Perez, I also want to thank all of you who've come and provided testimony, and it's taken a couple hours, so I really am very grateful to all of you for your presence, for your testimony, and of course for your service to all of us. Senator Taitague, you may close.
I think I was able to close earlier, just stating my statement. So again, I appreciate you taking the time, and those who are listening that's not able to, but there's a lot of veterans out there that are not able to make it here for one reason or another. I want to thank you for listening into this and continued support of this resolution. Feel free to submit any testimony. I know the speaker will receive it, or my office, either or. Thank you so much, and create a great day.
This we will accept testimony at Senator Terlaje Guam at gmail.com or here at the Guam Congress Building. This hearing is hereby adjourned, and it is 12:25 p.m.